When an online store gets no sales, most people panic. They try swapping out buttons or changing fonts. But the reality is that when a store is broken, it's almost never just one single thing you can tweak to fix it. Usually you're dealing with 5 different problems running at the exact same time, and they all feed into each other to make the situation worse. In the past, the only way to diagnose a mess like this was to hire an expensive agency, hand over a couple $1,000s, and wait 6 weeks for a PDF report that told you things you probably could have figured out on your own. Now you can use AI tools with a specific set of prompts to pull the real problems out of your business extremely fast. This is exactly what we're doing today by covering 5 audit areas and 5 fixes in a single afternoon. I'm going to walk you through every single prompt live on this screen so you can run this entire process on your own store the second this video ends. And if you don't know me, my name's Matthew Lepre, and over the past 10 years, I've helped thousands of students start to build a second income online. We have to start with product market fit because absolutely nothing else matters if you get this part wrong. Trying to run better ads on a weak product won't fix your business, and in reality, it just burns through your budget faster while you sit there wondering why your ROAS keeps dropping every single day. And the prompt for this is actually very straightforward. You just copy your product URL into Claude and ask if this product is solving a real urgent problem for a buyer who has money to spend, or if it's just a nice to have item that won't ever convert under cold traffic. And when you run that prompt, Claude is checking how specific the pain actually is for your customers. Generic pain, like wanting to feel healthier, almost never converts well for a new store, but specific pain, like people with desk jobs who wake up with lower back stiffness, is something people will actually pay to fix. And it also checks for urgency to see if a buyer needs this right now, or if they'll just bookmark it and forget you exist. And finally, it looks at whether your target customer actually has disposable income, because a product for broke students needs a completely different strategy than one for 40-year-old homeowners. This is where most failing stores completely fall apart. The product probably felt exciting to the owner when they first found it, but once you actually have to write down who the buyer is and what problem you're solving, the whole thing gets vague very quickly. Claude is going to tell you that directly, which is way more useful than waiting 6 weeks for your data to show you the same thing. Even if your product passes that first test, there is a second place where most stores silently bleed money, and it's much harder to spot. I'm talking about the gap between what your ad promises and what your landing page actually delivers to the customer. Audit number 2 is all about message match. You take your ad creative or script and a screenshot of your product page, drop them into Claude together, and ask it to score the match from 1 to 10 while pointing out exactly where the customer's expectation breaks. And I see this constantly across every niche imaginable, where the ad is selling a transformation, but the page is just selling a physical object. If your ad says, "Finally sleep through the night," and then the customer clicks only to read about memory foam and hypoallergenic covers, then that emotional thread that got them to click just snapped. They aren't thinking about sleeping better anymore because they're stuck reading a spec sheet and trying to decide if the price is fair. And the fix here is simple, because you just need to rewrite your headline to mirror the language from the ad. You aren't describing the product or listing features, you are mirroring the promise that made them click in the first place. Claude can generate that headline for you in that same prompt, and since it costs 10 minutes and $0, the jump in conversion rate is usually massive. But before we get into the next audit, if you want a free course where I show you exactly how to build a profitable store, then click the link in the video description below. Audit 3 is the point where you have to stop looking at your page like the owner and start looking at it like a complete stranger. You need to view your store through the eyes of someone who has never heard of you, doesn't trust you yet, and has probably been burned by a sketchy online shop at least once in the past. The specific prompt that you want to give Claude is this. Walk through this page as a first-time skeptical customer. You found this brand through an ad, you've never heard of them before, and you've had bad experiences buying from unknown stores. Tell me every single point where you would hesitate, doubt the brand, or just leave the site. That specific framing is what makes the difference between a generic response and a useful one. Without that context, Claude is going to give you surface-level advice, like telling you to add customer reviews or suggesting that your images could be higher quality. But when you give it a persona, you get the actual friction points a real human buyer hits, like missing trust signals or a value proposition so generic it could apply to literally any product in your category. You might find your copy just describes the product instead of making a real case for buying it. Or you'll see that there's mobile layout issues where the add to cart button is just buried all the way under 3 massive paragraphs of text. The reason this works so well is that you have likely looked at your own page 200 times and become blind to the flaws. Claude hasn't seen it before, so it reads the page code every single time and catches the things you've started to ignore. I saw this in action with a store selling a joint support supplement that ran this exact order. Claude flagged 3 major issues in one pass. There was no before and after framing anywhere, no explanation on how the ingredients actually worked, and the money back guarantee was hidden in the footer down the bottom of the website where nobody ever looks. None of those are difficult things to fix, but all 3 of them were absolutely killing the purchase intent of every visitor. The owner actually implemented the fixes that same afternoon by adding a trust bar above the fold and putting the guarantee front and center on the website. They moved the guarantee block directly below the add to cart button, which is exactly where a hesitant buyer looks right before they decide to click. After they also changed the headline from a basic product name to a clear outcome statement, and the page started converting at more than double the previous rate within the same week using the exact same traffic. Once the page is finally working, most store owners just stop there and think, okay, the job's done. But that's a massive mistake because there's a second place where sales go to die that almost nobody ever audits, and that is the checkout flow. Audit 4 is very simple to execute. You just run through your own checkout process, take a screenshot of every single step, paste them into Claude, and then you want to ask, where does a slightly skeptical customer who is almost ready to buy drop off, and why does this happen? When we look at multiple stores, the findings usually follow a very clear and frustrating pattern. Shipping costs often show up for the first time as step 2, which causes the momentum from the product page to die instantly. If there is no Apple Pay or Shop Pay option, mobile buyers are forced to type in 16-digit card numbers on a tiny screen, and they usually just give up. The guarantee copy that looks so good on the product page is often completely gone by the time they reach the payment screen, which is exactly when they need reassurance the most. You might even find your form asks for a phone number with no explanation, which triggers a privacy concern that wasn't even there 30 seconds earlier. Every single one of these problems can be fixed in an hour without ever needing to hire a developer. The shipping cost issue is worth focusing on for a minute because Claude will actually explain the math to you when it flags the problem. A small price increase to fund the free shipping, which is often just $2 or $3 on a $50 product, will always lift checkout completion because it removes the element of surprise. Customers usually don't mind paying a little bit more for the item, but they absolutely hate being surprised by extra fees at the end. Confirming free shipping early in the checkout flow changes the whole psychological experience and makes it much easier for them to finish the purchase. Audit 5. This is the order that almost every single store owner skips, and it's the one that costs the most amount of money to ignore over the long run. Most dropshipping stores have absolutely no email flow at all, which means they have no abandoned cart sequence and no post-purchase follow-up. That means every single visitor who adds an item to their cart and leaves is just gone forever. Every buyer who doesn't come back on their own is also gone, which means you pay to acquire those people, but you're only capturing maybe 40% of what they're actually worth to your business. A customer who abandoned their cart an hour ago is not a lost sale, but rather a warm lead who just got distracted or needed one more nudge. The right email sent at the right time closes a percentage of those sales every single day automatically, and it does it without you having to touch your ad spend. There are 3 specific emails that every store needs to have. First, you need an abandoned cart email sent about an hour after they leave, but don't lead with a coupon. Just send a reminder with the product image and a line that speaks to the reason they were interested in the first place. Second, you need a post-purchase email on day 3 that focuses entirely on results and how to use the product. Don't just thank them for buying, because this email is what plants the seed for a repeat purchase by getting them to actually use what they bought. Finally, you need a 30-day win-back email for buyers who haven't returned, giving them a specific reason to come back rather than just saying that you missed them. The prompt for this order is actually one of the fastest ones to run. You just paste your homepage copy into Claude and ask it to write all 3 emails using the brand voice it picks up from that text. It will pull the tone, the vocabulary, and the positioning from what you've already written. You aren't starting from scratch or trying to describe your brand to an AI, but instead, you're showing it your work and letting it reflect back as high quality email copy. And that output goes straight into an app like Klaviyo, where you can adjust the send times and swap in your product images. The whole process takes under 20 minutes to get live. People tend to deprioritize this because it feels less urgent than fixing a broken ad. But doing this will make your ads way more efficient by recapturing people that you would have lost. When you stack all 5 of these orders together, you get a complete system. You have product market fit to ensure you're solving a real problem, message match to keep the story consistent, and landing page audits to close the trust gaps. You have a smooth checkout flow so people don't fall off at that last second, and a recapture sequence to make sure that potential buyers come back to your store and keep paying you. Running all 5 of these on a single store using only Claude takes about 30 minutes of actual work. The stores that actually go through this full process and implement the fixes usually see their conversion rates climb from below 0.5% towards the 2% range within just a few weeks. The traffic didn't change and the ads stayed the same, but the store finally started deserving the sales it was getting. One honest caveat here is that Claude doesn't know your customer as well as 6 months of your own data. What it gives you is a fast, outside perspective that used to cost thousands of dollars and weeks of waiting for a consultant. The final judgment calls are still yours to make, and if you have long-term customer data, then I recommended adding that in for context. YouTube have this new crazy algorithm where they know exactly what video you want to watch next based on AI and all your viewing behaviors. And AI says this video is the best video for you. It's different for everyone right now. So check this video out and I bet you're going to get a lot of value.